Yeah, and then Captain Kirk, he got this green chick, and he said, "Hey, do you know
Hey,
about Vulcans?
Mitch.
They
Hey,
have two
Mitch.
penises."
Hey,
Oh,
Mitch.
hey, Ed! I am so psyched about today's show. Finally, after 4 years, we're going to talk about the greatest actor ever on science fiction,
Yeah,
Jimmy
Jason.
Doohan.
Who?
James Doohan. Scotty, I saw your email. It said, Mitch, we're going to talk about James Doohan. He was on Star Trek. I'm
No,
like,
no, no,
yes,
no, 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 no. I
I
said
grew my mustache back and everything. Yeah.
no. Yeah, it looks great, Magnum. But what I'm saying is that it wasn't Star Trek. We're talking about Jason of Star Command. Star Command, the classic Filmation kids show.
What?
Jason of Star Command.
Aw, man. I'm
Well,
all set to go to space, Ed. I thought we were going on the Enterprise.
that's a,
Now
I
what am I
can
going to do?
I can fix that. Let's just start the show. Hi, this is Ed Dollister.
And this is Mitch Halleck.
Oh, and welcome to another exciting episode of Mitch and Ed's Excellent Adventure. If it's your first time here, Mitch doesn't normally look like that. But if it is your first time here, I know you're going through a midlife crisis. You got the gel in the hair.
It'll all make sense. It'll all make sense in a couple seconds.
That's right. How can you find out a little bit more about our show?
Oh, Ed, it is easy as boarding a space colony, whatever thing in space, and just fighting bad guys. All you got to do is press the little button, and you too will be beamed aboard every time Ed and I go on another excellent adventure into the past of TV, movies, toys, and more, right here on YouTube. And if you want to be a cool cadet, hit the like button down there because it makes us feel all warm and fuzzy.
It does.
So, Ed, where in the wild blue yonder are we off to today?
Well, we're heading back to Saturday morning cartoons, but not a cartoon, even though it was surrounded by cartoons. We are going to Filmation's classic 1978 series, Jason of Star Command, or Command. It depends on what side of the planet you're on, I guess. So,
Command.
Did you watch Jason of Star Command when it came out, Mitch?
Ed, I think we have to clarify this because I did watch Jason of Star Command because, yes, like I mentioned in the opening, James Scotty Doohan from Star Trek fame was on board the space station as the commander or whatever. But this was not the original season. This was season number 2. Prior to Jimmy Doohan, another veteran of space shows.
No.
Yes.
No,
Jonathan
you've got it
Harris.
wrong. Let me clarify.
Okay, then I am sorry, Ed. My head is a tribble because
No,
my hair.
that's okay. So
what are you going to say?
I was going to say, so Jason of Star Command originally was on Tarzan and the Super 7 as a
Yes,
15-minute
CBS.
segment. And that had Tarzan, it had Web Woman, it had the New Adventures of Batman.
Yeah.
It also had Freedom Force, which I remember, and it had Jason of Star Command. And this was the most expensive kids TV show ever produced at that time. It was a spin-off of Space Academy.
Right.
Okay. So Space Academy was basically set in the same place as Jason of Star Command. It had Jonathan Harris, Mr.
Dr. Smith from Lost in Space.
Yes, from Lost in Space. He was going to come into Jason of Star Command. They decided to change the format. However, they only offered him half the pay for his role because the show was going from 30 minutes to 15-minute segments. And he goes, well, I don't think I'm worth a little bit more than that. I don't think just because it's half a show, I should be paid that. So they got rid of him and they asked James Doohan to take on the role of Commander Carnarvon. And that's where we get James Doohan. He had to leave
because he had to go do Star Trek.
Yeah, so that's right. He had to do Star Trek the motion picture. So
wait a minute, I'm all discombobulated. That's right. We're talking 1978.
That's right. God.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ed. I was already in the. You know why? Because I was thinking about the great episode that you and I had already done about Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan that viewers can watch by hitting the button up above.
That's
but no, I'm sorry. I'm all over the place. It's time travel, Ed. I'm coming back from that space trip.
It
You're
is, and
right.
you are in the future technically talking to me in the past. So, it does go a bit wibbly wobbly, but that's okay. So basically what happened is that Jason of Star Command, Jason was played by Craig Littler, who looked like Han Solo. Let's face it. He
did.
was a Han Solo style character. You had Susan Pratt playing Nicole Davidoff.
Is it Chris
Boy.
Pratt's mom?
No.
No, but this is the internet. We could start that rumor.
We could.
Star-Lord's
Everyone's related
mom-
to Chris Pratt.
Star-Lord's mom was on Jason of Star Command.
But I've got to say, Susan Pratt, holy cow, that she was better, dare I say, than Wilma Deering from Buck Rogers. She looked fantastic in that.
I'll tell you, Ed,
in
there's
that
nothing
jumpsuit.
that more exciting for a prepubescent young child than to watch people clad in spandex.
I know.
Spandex.
I know. It did
It
things.
made the
So
70s an amazing place to be.
it was, and she was absolutely gorgeous. You had Charlie Dell, who you're channeling part of that.
That's
hair.
what we're getting to. If people
Thank
want you
you.
to know, I was doing my Charlie Dell. He was, he was a scientist, and he was wacky because he had this hair.
Yep, he had the Einstein hair, Passerfoot, and he was clumsy. And he created Wiki, which is W1K1, this fantastic little robot that would wind up.
Yes,
it was like a wind up, and it would walk. Why did they not make a toy of this? I do not know.
I don't know. And you're missing the best part, of course. And
Sid
it's
Haig,
a legendary horror film actor.
Sid Haig playing Dragos.
See,
and I loved him. In fact, I feel like they stole the look from it was in the digital age.
Oh,
80s.
Captain Power.
Captain Power.
Yes.
His villain had the eye thing.
No,
like
it gets
Dragos
even
did.
better. No. That I gotta go check timeline wise. On Doctor Who, there was a big pirate who had a parrot, a mechanical parrot on his shoulder, and he had that getup with the eyepiece and the thing. It was a chubby actor. It was on Doctor Who with I'm gonna say it was with Tom Baker.
Okay,
might have been Peter Davison, but it was around the same time period. Because whenever I watch it, I go, "That's the same prosthetic that they used on that thing." But Ed, can I jump in there real quick with
of course you can.
knowledge? If I remember the Jonathan Harris show, that was a half-hour show. It was one of the most expensive kid shows ever produced. But here's the brilliant thing of this: the folks at Filmation, was it Filmation or was the guy whose name that spun around?
That was Lou.
Lou Scheimer.
Yes, he was involved, but it
Yes.
was Filmation.
Oh, okay, but he built that set in an empty warehouse, and they filmed all that like indoors. I mean, it was like an office building type thing. Their like offices were down the hall, and then you'd go in the like break room, and there was the sets for Star Academy or Space Academy, whatever show they were talking about. It was the same thing. So just imagine going to work in the morning, you pull up in the parking lot, you walk inside, and there's all this fancy doohickey stuff that's supposed to be the future, and it's just there. But the great thing about Jason of Star Command, and this is why it was much better than the Jonathan Harris show, is you're right. The influence of Star Wars and Han Solo affected the writing of it, and it became a serialized, almost episodic, like the old-fashioned serials,
Flash Gordon.
Like Flash Gordon, let him inspire Indiana Jones. So you had this great villain played by Sid Haig, and it was great to watch. I mean, I watched it, and there was a famous script writer on this show, and I don't want to say it was J. Michael Straczynski, who went on to do Babylon 5, but there was some great writer who was working on this show, because I remember reading interviews with them, and they said that was their whole intent, to have this epic long show done in these 50. I mean, that's a lot for little kids to remember. Every week. They're not the swiftest kids in the world.
No, well, that's fair enough, and it did expand. I mean, it was okay, sort of, I suppose, in the 15-minute format, and then with season 2, they decided to pull it out of that, and it was its own series.
Yeah.
In 1979. So James Doohan left because of Star Trek.
Got to go back to
the motion picture. Yeah. Susan Pratt sadly left, unfortunately, so we couldn't anyway, so she wasn't there, so they replaced James Doohan with John Russell as Commander Stone, who actually looks a lot like Grand Admiral Thrawn if you have a look at him.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there is John Russell was well known for a lot of I think it was Outlaw Josie Wales and a
Yeah.
lot of
He was like a
westerns
real
and things
actor.
like
Yeah.
that. You also had Tamara Dobson, who joined as Samantha, and Tamara Dobson is probably best known as Cleopatra Jones. And so she was from that blaxploitation
Yes.
movie series as well, and she joined the cast. It's a bit like, you know, in Buck Rogers, which we also
Yeah, yeah.
cover,
When the Hawk
and how
comes
the
on,
season
yeah,
2
when they get
changed a
on
little bit.
the Seeker season 2, yeah, it totally changes the whole
But we
format.
had some, you know, we had some great guest stars. Julie Newmar,
Yep.
Catwoman, played the Space
Yep.
Queen, and it was, as we said, it was one of the most expensive TV shows ever. Some people who worked on Star Wars worked on the special effects. The special
Yeah.
effects are great. The sets look great.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
stories were action and adventure, but they weren't you know, overly violent or anything like that, as you would imagine. And it was a really great show. It ran for 30 plus episodes, over 2 seasons, and you would think there'd be some merchandise for this show
No, but
because
wait, it doesn't end there.
Mm,
If I now, you got to follow my timeline on this
okay.
thing. There's another series with the same sets and everything that does not have Jason of Star Command, and this is where I'm getting a little lost now. And it didn't have Jonathan Harris, or maybe I'm thinking of it. It was this young actress who was on everything in the 70s. She would be on The Odd Couple. She was the voice of Lucy in one of the Charlie Brown cartoons. This young actress, I can't think of her name, she was like the go-to like 12-year-old, 14-year-old kid on all the 70s and maybe not early 80s. I can't think of her name, but she was on a version of this show before it was Jason Star Command. It was like her, there was an Asian kid. It was almost like a Star Trek type of setup where they had different nationalities and people
That's
from
Space Academy.
that
I
was that
think.
Space Academy. See, I
Yep.
thought there were 3 different shows. I could have swore it was Jonathan Harris was on one.
All right, here we go. Look at Space Academy. There she
is, right there. That's her.
Because,
Okay, that's
because
Space Academy. Yep,
because
and
I
there's
think
Dr.
was she
Smith.
in? No, she wasn't. Was she in Little House on the Prairie?
No, but
or-
I can't. We got to look up her name because I'm
yes,
telling
I'll
you,
put it down right here now.
her IMDb is loaded because she was on every freaking
was.
show. Like Market, you'd watch Quincy. She's on Quincy. You'd watch Starsky and Hutch. She'd show up on that show. She was like the hardest working kid actor in all the show business back
She was
then.
probably 42 and just was short of stature.
She probably was short. Yeah. But no, I liked it, and I read interviews with Sid Haig. He passed away not too long ago. That they would go to comic conventions, and he went on to do all these like House of a Thousand Corpses and all these Rob Zombie horror movies, and he had a whole other career after Jason Star Command. He was a huge horror actor, but he said people would inevitably come up to him at conventions and say, "I watched you on Jason Star Command when you were the bad guy," and he's like, he couldn't get away with it. And the actor that played Jason also did a lot of conventions. He's still with us. He was
Craig
around.
Littler, yes.
Yeah, and he said he'd get a lot. Kids would come up to him. He would do. They showed him like going to malls back in the day. They didn't have the internet to promote stuff, so they would do tours, and they would send like the actors to shopping malls and stuff to go. You know, come and meet Jason from Jason Star Command, the hit CBS Saturday morning show. So he would show up in the outfit, and I've seen stills of him like hanging around meeting kids and such. So
it's very cool, and it's still really watchable. And like his fantastic spaceship, the Starfire, was really cool. Fact, they used the front of the Starfire for the front of or part of Arc 2. You remember Arc 2, the TV series?
That's another good show we got to talk about someday.
Well, that's okay. Well, we will talk about that, but I will say that not much merchandise. There was a novel that came out in 1980, which was there's some t-shirt transfers which I'll put up. They didn't make wiki at all, and even in the like the aftermarket, you know, like the present day, you know, Funko Pops, or Super 7, I mean, all those things, nothing. They did bring out this, which is the sci-fi box set, Jason of Star Command, Space Academy, and Arc 2. And This has got like a documentary on the series on each thing and things like that. 28 episodes. There you go. That Jason of Star Command ran for. This is out of print.
Wow.
I got it 20 years ago. I had to order it from America out of print, and it sells now for a couple of $100. So
Oh, I believe it.
yeah, so if you do find one, it's great because it's got all those 3 classic series. Definitely worth watching. I believe it used to you can get it maybe on some streaming episode.
Oh no, actually, YouTube here has like the entire
yeah.
see, you can watch the entire Jason Star Command.
So it's well worth a watch. It's pretty fun. You know what else is well worth a watch, Mitch? Yep.
Us?
Some
This
of our
mustache?
shows, especially Thunder the Barbarian and what's going on
Herculoid.
with the Herculoid. So that's great. So, thank you to everyone who's been watching that. How can you find out a little bit more about this show, Mitch?
Oh, Ed is as easy as being a maniacal space pirate with some weird getup on the side of your face. All you have to do is sit down, strap yourself in, and blast off by hitting the notification button. And you too can come out to the far reaches of outer space when Ed and I go looking back into the past and talk about all the things you dimly remember, but we try to recall using nothing but the power of our something up here. That's all you do.
That's right. The only wiki is the robot, not Wikipedia. We remember stuff.
Right.
We don't
subscribe.
We don't just read articles and read them out, do we?
No, we read old comic books and try to recall stuff. And I have like memory lapses right here live on TV when I'm yelling at you, like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. There's 3 seasons. You're like, no, 2.
That's all right. That's what it's all about. So signing off from Star Command, this is Ed Dollister.
And this is Mitch Halleck.
It was you all along. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.